Well, Common Cause has played a very active role on a very specific objective, and the objective is to get Congress to resume the role in the making of war and peace that was envisaged in the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution expected and intended that Congress should play a role, and we have strongly encouraged them to do so. You ask present status. The Mansfield Amendment was resubmitted yesterday. Mike Mansfield, is senator from Montana, is now the leader of the anti-war movement in the Senate, and it's a very good amendment, and I think it will have a reasonably good chance of passing.
Mr. Gardner, other than the war legislation, what are some of the concrete things that Common Cause has achieved?
We played a key role in getting the new campaign spending legislation. Uncontrolled campaign spending emerged about 1970 as possibly the worst scandal in our political life, and the costs were rising so that people just had to become beholden to sources of money they didn't want to be obligated to. We filed suit against both the major parties for violating the existing laws, and did a lot to stimulate new legislation. We now have it, and we're monitoring it to see that it's enforced. That's one way. We have fought for environmental legislation. We're working very hard on the water pollution bill, which is now before Congress.
You are now organizing on the state level. At what stage are you in this?
We're tackling all the states with a reform package. Common Cause members in those states are proposing this package, which includes lobbying controls, conflict of interest controls, campaign spending laws, and open meetings. We have found so much enthusiasm from our Texas members. They're very deeply interested in this subject. So much enthusiasm that we are going to see if we can't create the first self-sustaining citizens lobby unit in the country here in Texas. The Texas members are deeply interested, and we have a feeling with the gusto that Texas brings to all its actions, you might just pull off something that the rest of the country would learn something from.
And what's the time schedule on that? This is going to be a working unit by when?
Oh, I think that it'll be in operation relatively soon. Our concern is a relatively narrow band of issues. As you know, state legislatures are in pretty bad shape, and Texas is in about as bad shape as any. The Texas legislature, according to our members here, that's not my knowledge, but we're tackling a narrow band of issues that are really at the heart of what is wrong, and they involve money in politics, the influence of money, and the issue of secrecy. There isn't any reason why the public business should be conducted behind closed doors. It ought to be out in the open. There isn't any reason why the public shouldn't know what kinds of money are being spent for what purposes to influence legislation. These are things that we can accomplish. We can make our state legislatures accountable and responsive and open. And it's going to be a very well organized effort. There'll be a unit in Austin. There'll be units in the home districts of every state legislator. And the way the members here are responding, I think it's going to be quite an exciting operation.
Mr. Gardner, why no political endorsements? Aren't there probably many candidates both on a national and a state level that pretty much stand for the same things that Common Cause does?
Yes, that is true, but we would have to get another kind of charter, and I think we would get very close to being a political party if we began to do that. The backing of issues is not as far from the support of candidates as you would guess. When we move into an area, a congressional district, we find that our members know very well whether they want to vote for their congressman again. They have tested him. They're not like ordinary citizens who pay no attention. They know where he stands. They know how he answers his letters. They know whether he levels with them. And you don't have to give him a rating. They know what they want to do about him.
How soon do you see common cause on a local level?
That's going to take a longer time, partly because it takes real organization. This is a huge country. And partly because the local problems are just terribly severe. Local government is, in most places, just really quite bad. And it's going to take a strong organization, very experienced, to clean up the city councils and the county boards of supervisors.
How do you keep the pitch of tension that's required to get these things done?
Well, I don't know. I think we have tapped a vein of enthusiasm that is just the other side of the apathy that people talk about. We go to citizens and we say there's something you can do. You know, there really is something you can do about these problems. You don't need to put up with the debasement of our public life. You don't need to put up with graft and corruption and deals and behind-the-scenes manipulation. You can change it. You can get back to the idea that government ought to derive its just powers from the consent of the governed. And when people see that, when they see that the individual can play a role, they get very excited.
Has Common Cause lived up to your original expectations?
Oh, yes. More than I had realized. I hadn't realized how effective citizens could be. I hadn't realized, for example, the many weapons that we have. Just the weapon of public information. It is astonishing the sanitizing effect that publicity has, the light of publicity thrown on what politicians are doing. Time and again, we have won a battle just by telling the story, telling the public the behind-the-scenes story of what's happening in their own legislature, in their own federal government.